Yeah, see the camera is like messed up a little bit. I'm live right now. I think I'm live. Let me see how it's looking here. Oh, maybe that's just to me. This way I could see. I'm going to do two screens here so I can also see the live chat because I'm on StreamYard. And so I could see the live chat in YouTube. I'm going to have two streams going. I think that's the best way. This way I could share screen and I can also see who's in the chat room here. I hope the audio is well. Yeah, see that the cameras are a little. Maybe it's because it's too far, but I got to stay back a little bit. I can't be really typing on here. Let me see if I share screen too on here. Well, I hope people are live in the chat room as well. I'll be contacting you guys in the chat. So I guess right here we're looking at the Euphrates River. And this is something that we're going to be talking about this morning. Very interesting discussion. Now, maybe we should give it a few seconds and let a little bit more people join in the chat room. But we're here live. You can also be commenting on StreamYard as well. Everything will pop up on StreamYard. Sorry if the camera is doing a little bit of fuzz. I was trying to mess with it a little bit, but I couldn't get it. It's the best I can get it. Now, from my understanding, the Euphrates River goes from Turkey all the way down. Let me see officially what it says here about the Euphrates River. Just in Wikipedia. I hate to use Wikipedia, but it's the longest and one of the most historical important rivers of Western Asia to get out of the Persian Gulf. Yeah, it starts in Turkey and goes through Syria, Iraq to join with the Tigris, of course, and empties into what they call now the Persian Gulf. Now, Euphrates River is a very important spot that I wanted to talk about this morning. Now, I don't even think people realize the kind of history that's involved with the Euphrates River, even biblically. This is the east of the Euphrates. Wow, really amazing. So even biblically, we find that there's links to the Garden of Eden, possibly with the Euphrates River. And I'm going to give you guys some mind-blowing information this morning. And definitely hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I also have a new channel that I'm doing combat sports interviews and videos about if you're interested in that, and also the spiritual side, the spiritual warfare side of martial arts. And my new channel is called Combat Sports TV International, and you can find that right here on YouTube as well. But yeah, we're looking at the Euphrates River. First of all, there's a few spots that I've been talking about, and tonight at 9 p.m. I'm doing a broadcast on my Patreon, specifically only exclusively on my Patreon. Last night I ended up going live here on YouTube because I was doing a spur of the moment live thing on Patreon, and not too many people showed up, so I figured we'd go live on YouTube. But tonight it's going to be exclusively on patreon.com/the mystical spiral, and you'll be getting inside information, research that you can't find anywhere else, information that you can't find anywhere else. And we're going to be doing group combat prayers, group viewings of certain locations, and it's all going to be here at patreon.com/the mystical spiral. So like I said, this is the Euphrates River. Now, for those that don't know, the Euphrates River is what I call, and in my upcoming, my book right now, the reason why I'm starting to do all this on Patreon is because I've been writing a book for like over 2 years, and I'm already up to about 400 pages. And I feel like by the time something is completely done, written and published, it's like the information's no longer cutting edge. So I'm going to be doing it specifically on my Patreon, where I'm releasing a lot of the information inside the book on my Patreon, exclusively for people that are there, that have to really appreciate the information. And instead of waiting for a book to come out, I think when the information needs to come out, it needs to come out right away. And my Patreon is the perfect place to do that. And it's for people that really want to be there. It's not for just anybody that can publicly look at it and do whatever they want with it. So the Euphrates River is very important. I feel it's one of the locations that I've been writing about that other people have also talked about as well. And I think I go to it in my own deep way. But it's one of those places I feel that there is something that, if you want to use the word Stargate or some sort of ancient technology that exists, and I think it lies at the bottom of the Euphrates River, and we get clues to it biblically. We get clues to it all over, not just the Bible, but I mean, you have the tales of Gilgamesh and the Hulapu tree that is very similar to, when you hear the story, that this involves Lilith, right, where she actually built her house inside of the midst of this Hulapu tree, right? This willow, almost like a willow tree, I guess, right? Which was basically planted on the banks of the Euphrates River, and in the that they talk in the very days of creation, right? Now they talk about how there's a specific dragon or some sort of technology, right? That they're poetically calling a dragon, that set up its nest at the base of this tree, and this zoo bird placed his young in its crown, right? And Gilgamesh ends up slaying this dragon, and with this huge bronzed axe, right? And he's a giant with this huge oversized bronze axe. And when he does this, the zoo bird basically flees with its young to the mountains. And Lilith in the story is so terror stricken by what happened, she tears down her house and she escapes to the desert. Now, we do find, even in the Bible, where it sort of picks up there with Lilith in the book of Isaiah, right? In the book of Isaiah, we find that the screech owl, aka Lilith, they even use the word Lilith in some of the translations of the Bible, has her home in the desert and things like this, right? So it's very similar. But yeah, they talk about, I mean, I think this is a poetic way of talking about some sort of installation, right? That's on the bank of the Euphrates River. And many people, including myself, feel there might be some sort of installation in the bottom of the Euphrates River, right? And a Sumerian sort of gate or some sort of technology that I feel is actually about calling down comets. And people might think that's a wild idea, but it really isn't, because it's all over the Bible as well. And we're going to go over that. So if people want to even get out their Bibles, we can even go over some of the spots. If people have the book of Revelation in front of them, it would be good. And you see a lot of these spots as well. Not just the Euphrates River, but the one I was talking about with Abu Ghraib last night, right here, right? And I was talking about other locations that we can get into. A lot of these places will have granite structures, and a lot of them I feel, or and limestone and various stones like this, right? And a lot of them will also be linked to having water, right? And I think that that's a big combination right there that leads to this technology, right? And it's about also transmitting sound through water and the transport of an unseen intelligence through sound, through water, and through it's I guess it's hard for some people to understand and take their grips to take a that they can grasp it, but a lot of it is related to granite as well. I mean, a lot of the places you see even paranormal activity will be about the granite. Even Gettysburg, the ground is basically layered beneath with black granite, right? So all of that memory imprint that happened there, it'll get picked up within the crystals and the very layer of the ground and everything, like the memory, and it'll catch that imprint of the energy and and even the blood soaked in the ground. I mean, all of that gets imprinted within the very granite, within the crystals, all of that. And it's like a capture of a video, a moment in time that gets stuck and imprinted in there, right? Hey, Sherry in the chat room. So that's very interesting. And I do believe the Euphrates River is not just a Stargate where people think, oh, it's to another world, or it's actually bringing other DNA and bacteria and change to the planet by calling down comets. And we can even look right here in the book of Revelation, if people haven't. This is not the only one. The book of Revelation right here, when it comes to the sixth trumpet, right, in the book of Revelation. Now, this is where we go, and we're talking about comets being brought down. For those that don't want to believe me, come and look in the book, and even in the book of Isaiah, right? In the book of Isaiah, they talk about God calleth them down, the hosts, right? This is the objects of heaven, the hosts of heaven. These are what comets are. Comets are the queens of heaven. Comets are hosts of heaven. They are also bowls or vials, or some sort of even cometary messengers, who have their trumpets, or which are like cometary missiles, the way they sound, the trumpets, right? All of this, right? And they talk about how right in the book with the sixth trumpet, right, round sixth, basically, this is like part of the three woes, right? And you have Revelation 9, right? And they basically have it all how it's basically going to come and pour into the Euphrates River and dry the Euphrates River up. So when you're talking about the book of Revelation, let's get out the book of Revelation here and then go into what it really translates to, how you can read it with the comets in it. So let's see, we're in Revelation. I think it's Revelation 9:13 for people want to come in here and look. So now if you go to Revelation 9, this is very important, right? Revelation 9:13. I mean, there's way more, but go to Revelation 9:13. Let's pull it up right here so people could see it. All right, for those that are here with me, Jackie Fox in the chat room. So look at the Revelation 9:13 right here. We got to go down a little bit. Right here. Revelation 9:13. The sixth angel sounded his trumpet, and I heard a voice coming from the four horns of the golden altar that is before God. It said that the sixth angel who had the trumpet released the four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. And the four angels who had been kept ready for this very hour and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. The number of the mounted troops was twice 10,000 times 10,000. And I heard their number. The horse and riders I saw in my vision looked like this. Their breastplates were fiery red, dark blue, and yellow as sulfur. All comets right there. The head of the horses resembled the heads of lions, and out their mouths came fire, smoke, and sulfur. A third of mankind were killed by these comets, and 3 plagues of fire, smoke, and sulfur that came out of their mouths. The power of the horses was in their mouths and in their tails. Their tails, for their tails were like snakes, having heads with which they inflict injury. These are talking about the comets' tails. Their tails were like snakes, all of it right here. And you can read it better off like reading it like this. The sixth angel. Now, angels are messengers of God, and the technology of God are comets. So angels are cometary messengers, literally messengers of comets. They bring the comets. That's what the angels do. They are escorts of comets. They are the comets themselves, right? Comets are what brings DNA to our planet, to all planets, everywhere. There's a long period of comets that existed at the time of the solar creation of our sun and our planets and our whole solar system, right? So the messenger in the Bible, angelos, right? Angelos means messenger, angel. Angelos, it means messenger. They are cometary messengers, comet messengers, messengers of comets. And he sounded his trumpet, and they heard a voice, right? Coming from the four horns of the golden altar, right? All of this that is before God. We're talking about a voice that's coming from either the Kuiper Belt or the Oort cloud. This is places that send out comets, in my opinion. And it's said to the sixth cometary messenger, the angel who had the trumpet, right? Which is in the shofar ram's horn, right? And he released the four cometary messengers, the comets, who are bound for the great river Euphrates, most likely. Or you can also see it could also mean a gateway that's at the bottom of the great river Euphrates. You can look at it either way, right? But with translations, it most likely would make more sense in this 14 right here that the sixth angel or the sixth cometary angel who had the trumpet released these four trumpets, or released these four comets, which are bound for the great river Euphrates, which are bound to hit it, right? And this is talked about in more than one place, that something is going to hit the Euphrates River and dry it up, right? So when you see this too, like, look at, they're going to kill a third of mankind. Isn't that amazing? A third of mankind will be wiped out because of this, right? So that's over, a few 100 million. Almost, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of million people. And he heard the number of them. Now, look how it goes on, and talks about the fire and brimstones and their tails, right? Which were like serpents. These are cometary tails we're talking about all here, right? And they involve basically in Revelation 9:13, what we're seeing here. This involves basically, and what I'm using also here, the King James version of the Bible for translation, and we have notes, and there's other people that have talked about this. I have stuff that I've added and I've gone deeper, right? There's Dr. Goodman, who wrote The Comets of God. There's Professor Chandra and Sir Fred Hoyle. I've interviewed Professor Chandra many times. He's a friend of mine now over the last couple of years. And they don't go deep into the Bible too much, but they know that the Bible and all these ancient are talking about technology of God is comets, right? And there's a book called Comets of God who has most of this written in it. And you could find a star completely can be considered a comet, right? A comet, a queen of heaven, a host of heaven, a star, a hairy star. Sometimes they call it, this is what a comet also can be: a hairy star, a bowl of heaven that's pouring out, or a vial of heaven that's pouring out. And it's talking about this all in Revelation. In the chat room, Birdie, of course. And it goes so deep. And it's talking about how the Euphrates River a third of mankind will be blown out from what hits Euphrates River. And I do believe there's some sort of Stargate at the bottom of the Euphrates River, and there's installations like this all over our planet. And these are strategic spots where comet strikes are bound for. And this is how worlds get seeded at certain coordinates. You don't think their worlds just happen to get comets, these long period comets that sort of fly through the zodiac cycles of the universe and our solar system. And some of them have 250,000 year cycles. And they happen to be just carrying bacteria and DNA that can evolve certain planets when they drop their cometary dust on them and inject into their inner solar systems. After they pass the sun and they get lit up by all the gases get lit up, they inject these cometary gases, and bacteria gets sent out from the sun like a solar sail, right? Like a solar barge of ancient Egypt. And and some of them, it reaches even the stratosphere of Earth. And we're at minimum sunspot cycles. They come right into our planet at certain strategic coordinates. And we also have strategic coordinates on this planet that I have found from remote viewing that are where the comets will, when they actually have physical impacts and make it here. This is when times of rebirth and change. There's also comets that have short period and long period comets where they pass by and they drop off cometary dust for viral change on our planet. They're evolving worlds, and there's a technology telepathically to tap in to the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud, which I have talked about, which I have witnessed, which I have been interfacing basically with since almost 2012. It's a part of our higher self. It's part of our higher Taurus system and who we are. We're all part of it. It's part of Source. We're part of Source. It's talked about in the Bible, right? It's not channeling. It's not doing anything like that. It's our own source information that it's linked to. And this is how this information was obtained in the book of Revelation as well, right? And of course, John in the book of Revelation did not have the technology and vocabulary of comets and about the Oort cloud and the Kuiper Belt and that kind of information. Now we could put some names to some of the things that we're seeing. And he has a very poetic way of describing this, right? Where the scrolls of heaven will be rolled up, where there's red rain coming down. All of this are cometary bombardments, right? All of this that you see, mouths came fire, smoke, sulfur, all of this is because of comets, right? When you're talking about the sixth trumpet, prophetic terms that we see here, right? We're talking about evidence almost. It's like, or information. It's scientifically accurate information talking about comets that are outgassing, coming into the strike our planet. And the horses with heads as the heads of lions and mouths that issue fire and smoke and brimstone that we see here, right? This is truly amazing, right? And it talks about 4 comets and I think almost 200 million cometary fragments hitting the Euphrates River, right? And look at this. This is really intense, right? We have the number of mounted troops, which twice 10,000 times 10,000, right? So this is how much? This is over 100,000 cometary fragments, mounted troops, which was coming off of this comet, like horses, right? These are cometary fragments that are cupping off, and there was 200 of them, and he heard their number. He was tapping straight into it. And these horses and riders, these are cometary fragments. He saw in his vision, and it looked like this. Their breastplates were fiery red, dark blue, and yellow as sulfur. Come on. This is a poetic way of describing comets, you know, and it's really amazing. Really amazing, right? And the Euphrates River is a spot where there's some sort of installation at the bottom. And we talk about this in the oldest of stories. I mean, like I just mentioned earlier, for those that are just joining us, there's an ancient tale related to Lilith, and it talks about Lilith. She's they call her even the beautiful maiden. She is one of the queen of heavens that they talk about, right? And of course, she was looked at as the mother of giants and a harlot and a vampiric sort of person. And say in a lot of these stories that we find, they talk some of these stories, like how she once chose a lover, and would never let him out of her grips, let him go without ever giving him real satisfaction, and that she was like unable to bear children and had no milk in her breasts. And then there's a Sumerian epic that you could find called Gilgamesh and the Hulapu tree, that's from about 200 BC or something like this, right? And Lilith, or Lilake, right? Lilake, this is when you talk about water as well, Lilake, Lilith, this is they use these terms. Lilith too, right? She built her house in the midst of this hulapu tree, which some correlate with a willow tree. And she had planted it on the bank of the Euphrates River in the very days of creation. And there was a dragon that had its nest at the base of this tree, and the zoo bird placed his young in its crown, right? And then when Gilgamesh takes his freaking huge bronze giant axe, this giant Gilgamesh, and he slays the dragon. When this happens, the zoo birds take their young and fly off into the mountains. And then Lilith is so terror-stricken by what she just saw that she basically breaks down her house, tears it, rips it down, and she escapes into the desert, right? And they have Babylonian. You could see these. One of the depictions of Lilith here. Why is it just yeah, so that's so this is the Babylonian, like one of the depictions, of course, that one of the most famous depictions of the Babylonian Lilith, right? So you see her, she basically is very well shaped and beautiful, slender and nude, right? And she's got wings and owl's feet, and she's basically standing on two reclining lions. Now, when you see two lions like that, it usually represents what the ancient Egyptians call Akhet, which is, or Aker, right? Or the Aker or the Akar, which is two fierce lions, right? Facing away from each other. Now, in my opinion, usually this is talking about a binary star or a binary sun, two fierce lions that are facing away from one another. And in the middle, sometimes it represents the horizon, the Akhet in ancient Egyptian, right? And so she's rising above the horizon over a binary star, right? That's sometimes I find it's a star map right in the terracotta relief. And I've been translating this in my books. And, if you want to go get deeper information, you got to go to my Patreon. I could just give you the surface of what I'm talking about here. But on the surface level, what we're seeing on her head, she basically is wearing a cap, right? And this is sometimes called the Melamu, headwear in Sumerian and Akkadian, right? And Assyrian. They have all these different names, but some of it is called the Melamu headdress, right? And you could see on her head, she has this cap that's got, I think, like 7 pairs of what somebody can say a horns, but it's a technology. It almost even represents the head of a male part as well. So, but it would be like a circumcised part. But it's very interesting. But these caps seem to be a technology that can call down fire from the sky, that can call down comets, that can telepathically tap in to comets flying. And this Queen of Heaven could also mean a comet itself. It's got wings, it's flying, and everything in itself could be a specific comet. Now, comets bring fertility to planets. It brings change, it brings DNA, and that's exactly what we're seeing here depicted. And it's 2 comets coming past a binary star into the horizon, into a certain. So that's where I'm going with that. There's way more. And you see the ring rod combination, also similar to the Ankh right here in her hand. Her arm would be the Ankh, and this is the rest of it, right? But it's also the ring and the rod combination. And she basically in this depiction is a goddess who is taming the wild beasts as well. She's not just she's one that rules over them and rules, and if you see a lot of these lions, if you look closer, they look like they have spots on them, right? Dark spots, and it's very different. Even if you look up the Egyptian Aker. So if you see, this is the Egyptian Aker, right? Or Akar. They always depict these 2 lions facing away from each other, also facing away, and the horizon, that they're below the horizon. So in my opinion, they actually represent binary suns. And what kind of lions have spots on them? They don't have spots on them, but binary stars do. And stars that are spinning so fast, they have star spots, dark sunspots. And I do believe that we're talking about binary stars when we're talking about that. And that's just my translation and stuff that I was led to finding by viewing, by doing my remote viewings. It helped me find some of this information, and then I did the research to back up what I saw, and I found these connections, right? So it said that there's also a 7th century BC tablet that was found at Arslan Tash in the northern Syria area, which shows Lilith as a winged sphinx, and her body is basically inscribed with a Phoenician and Canaanite dialect. And it talks about how she's the flyer in a dark chamber. And it says, "Go away at once, O Lily," right? "O flyer in a dark chamber," right? And this is very interesting. And it became so important that even they were using it as an incantation chant during childbirth, while a child is coming from the cosmic womb into our planet, the same way a comet gets injected into our into planets. It's like an injection into a world, comes from the cosmic womb. These queens of heaven, Sekhmet, Anath, Asherah, Hathor, Isis, Inanna, Ishtar, Hecate, all of these, they are queens and mothers of comets as well. That's how you need to look at them. And it's very important to understand that. That's the technology of God. And you see even on these lions, they got similar spots to those pictures. These are not typical lions. In some of these pictures, you'll see that they're depicting something else. All right. And there's a very, very deeper way to break down a lot of this. And in the Euphrates River, we find it all over. All over. We can find it in many, many writings. And it even talks about, Ishtar. Ishtar is the Sumerian goddess. Inanna is the Sumerian goddess, but Ishtar is Akkadian from Akkad. Anath is the Canaanites, right? And Asherah is the mother to Anath. Asherah is the queen of the gods of the Canaanites, and El would be her father and husband, in one. And El and Asherah would be the supreme ones of the Canaanites, basically, right? So Ishtar and Inanna is Sumerian, Ishtar is Akkadian or from Akkad, and then Anath would be, these are the children of the upper ones, right? But these are looked at as queens of heavens, and the oldest of them was Inanna, right? The Sumerian goddess of love, war, right? Love and war, and also storms, right? And this is what brings comets, right? All of this, right? And she's also the one that could bring disease and healing and all of that, right? It brings change and fertility. And there's also Ishtar. Now, Ishtar is basically the Akkadian version of Inanna. And one of her titles is the sweet-voiced mistress of the gods, right? And she's also called the most awesome of the heavens, right? She's also called Ishtar of the battlefield, where they describe her as being clad in divine fire, carrying the Melamu headwear. And this Melamu headwear is said that it could rain down fire on its enemies. And it was like, if people would invoke Ishtar, these kings and the elites, it was she who gives them armed forces to destroy. She gives the arts of war, and she was, basically called the charioteer of the gods too, and she it's talked about in some of her the early stories that she even tried to win entice Gilgamesh by promising him a chariot of lapis and gold and all of this, and she was even the Canaanite Anath is very similar as well, right? Even the Persians had a Nath, the Anahita, would call Anahita, right? And all of these spots, like the Euphrates River, I believe, have installations that are coordinate for coordinates of comets for when they actually hit our planet. And yeah, this has been awesome. Let me see if I can oh, cool. So we have people here. Let me show all this. Hey, I'm just getting to this now. So I hope you guys are actually going to be a part of my Patreon tonight. Good morning, Cindy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, it's really incredible actually when you get into it. And I actually have so much information that talks about this, and it talks about calling down comets and tapping into the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud, where I do believe a lot of even the Marian apparitions that have happened have been transmissions that are coming from the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud. And after certain of these Marian apparitions, we had terrible destructions happen if we did not follow the prophecies that were given and the information that was relayed telepathically to many of the people that have had these Marian apparitions. And Marians are the queen of heavens. This is the most ancient form of divinity to our planet, right? The most ancient form of divinity we find. And I mean, some of the oldest forms of deity worship we find are the lion-headed people, right? You even have the oldest form of, let me show you. Oh wait, here I gotta share screen again, right? For that. Hold on. So we even got the oldest form of I know I got it somewhere here. Thought I did. No, I don't think I have it here. Hold on, let me look it up. So this is the oldest form of deity worship. I think it's called. Yeah, right here. This is the oldest form of deity worship that we basically have in that we know of, that in our times. You know, this is over 30,000 years old, and you could see, I think it was reconstructed in 1987, but it was found in like the 20s or something like this. All right, it's the Lion Man. It was found in a cave in Germany. This is basically like a Sekhmet. It's most likely a female because you see it doesn't have a mane on it, of course. A male lion has a mane. This doesn't have a mane. So most likely they call it the Lion Man, but most likely it's not a man. It's a female lion. And it does look like almost mechanical. Look at its arms. All right. It's very interesting. And it almost looks exactly like a Sekhmet or Sekhet. Right. And Sekhmet is one of the oldest forms of deities that we have, you know, and she has her sound vibrational healing chambers, which are related to water as well. And I believe all of these sites, the Euphrates River Stargate, the Apu Ghorab Stargate that we talked about yesterday, all of these have water originally linked to them. and Abu Ghraib got destroyed at one time. These are all got destroyed and dismantled. And I do believe the Euphrates River will be activated, and that's where comets will hit that area. And in various other places, there will be 200 million cometary fragments that come to our planet when at that time comes, that they talk about, even in the book of Revelation. And this was found in a cave in Germany, which we might be able to find here. This was the cave that it was found in Germany. Now, they believe that is over 30,000 years old, that Lion Man. And this was the cave in Germany. I mean, look at how ancient this cave is. Really amazing, right? And we're doing viewings of all of this stuff on my Patreon. So, guys, that's the place to find me at. And there's places that in Karnak, in Egypt, that have these Sekhmet chambers that have solar technology that lights up the, like, certain sun comes through a hole inside the temple that will light up the back of the black granite statue, and her spinal cord will look like it's blue electric fire, right? This is the Sekhem fire, the Kundalini fire, right? These are chambers of telepathic communication and information, the God mind, right? This is really intense information, and most people can't even handle it. But yeah, this is one of the oldest forms of deities. And of course, when you go and break down the reality of it and look into the ancient tales, they talk about many leonine feline type of deities in Hindu and in Vedic, right? In ancient Egyptian, you have many different names like Bast and Pasht and all of this, right? Pasht, Pascht, is one of the oldest, and it's even said in a lot of the ancient Egyptian writings that she was the one who created the Asian races, right? This is really intense information, right? This is, and the way DNA is brought and transported through the cosmos is by comets. So that is really intense, and I hope people really don't just dismiss that information. How is everybody doing out there? I hate that it's doing that when I go close to the screen. Look at, I'm into the matrix. Step inside the fuzz. I got my Halley's Comet shirt on. Check this out. Halley's Comet 86. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting too with the granite. You'll find that granite is used for most of the ancient obelisks, red granite. And Aswan Quarry is aligned with the red granite, the bedrock of it. And even, like I said, Gettysburg has black granite, all lined on, it's layered there. There's it's really intense. Really intense. And even when we look into the dictionary here, this is the ancient archaic dictionary. There was a man that I feel very connected to, actually, when I have all 4 of his old books. William Ricketts Cooper, his name was. He was either from Australia or New Zealand. He died very young too. I think he was not even maybe 40 years old, something like that. But he did a lot of interesting travels and research and lectures about Egyptian, Etruscan, Persian, Assyrian, all of these cultures, and there's something called the Archaic Dictionary, right, where you can look up certain names that it's all it is definitions. It's not a book or anything like that, but it's definitions of ancient words. And I always reference this in all of my work to see the certain ancient definitions. And of course, these translations are not 100%. These are his versions of his translations, but it gives you a basis and what to compare it to with other translations, right? So even the word, like where you have Abu Ghurab, what we talked about yesterday. Where's Abu Ghurab? Let me share before I go. At 12 o'clock, I'm going to be trying to jump my car again, but I don't know if that's going to work because I have a dead car. We're like stranded here right now. I'm trying to at least get it jumped so I could bring it to get it fixed, because where it's at right now is not even going to, like, it's not even towable. So let me get rid of all these. I think I even have Abu Ghurab here. Yeah, so this is Abu Ghurab. This is the location in Egypt that is very interesting. And these words are very, very intense when you look up the definition of these words. Well, first, Abu or even Apsu is very interesting. Apsu can mean the abyss, but in this dictionary here, it means the deep. And they say it's an Akkadian word from which the name of the Greco-Babylonian deity Apisan was derived. Right, so Apsu or Aps also is, Apsaras in Hindu mythology is heavenly virgins, like 600 million heavenly virgins, whose office it was to solace the gods and the souls of departed men. Now, if that's not talking about comets, holy crap. 600 million heavenly virgins in all, and their office was to bring solace to the gods and the souls of departed men. All of these can be related to that, But Apsu can mean the deep, or it can mean the abyss. Even the Apis bull that we have, right, in ancient Egyptian and in Memphis and Lower Egypt, it's an actual incarnation of Ptah, the deity himself, right? And when they're talking about he's born of a cow, right? By a stroke of lightning from heaven, right? This is they're talking about comets, in my opinion, and it's all goes back to comets. They're the way things are created, and how worlds are seeded, and how DNA and bacteria and viruses are transported. Viruses aren't always bad; they bring evolution, right? And Abu Ghurab is a very interesting word. Abu can mean many things. In Assyrian, it means the 5th month of the Assyrians, but it's also sacred to the goddess Alat, the queen of the sphere, and was called by the Akkadians Abba Bagar, which means fire that makes fire. And it's answered roughly to our July. And in June and July is a time where asteroids and meteors and stuff usually hit, and comets a lot of times hit. And it's talking about it's sacred. It's the queen of the sphere, and was called by the Akkadians Abba Bagar, which means fire that makes fire. Really intense, right? And Abu is another word. There's a city of Elephantine. I think Elephantine is the Aswan quarry. I don't know why it says in Upper Egypt here, where Thutmose III built a temple city in Khnum, the creating spirit, because Elephantine I thought is in the Aswan quarry, but there could be this another city, but I'm not sure about that. I think Elephantine is in the Aswan quarry. I gotta look that up. Yeah, the quarries of Aswan are located along the Nile in the city of Aswan. There's the island of Elephantine and Ciel. Yeah, there's two. There's the stone quarries. Yeah, but there's northern and southern quarries. But it's in southern Egypt, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So Elephantine is in part of the Aswan, as far as I know. Yeah, but Abu Ghurab, as we see here, this is a star fort of alabaster, Egyptian crystal, which is really intense. And this is huge, this thing right here. It's bigger than it looks in this picture. And this is part of an ancient structure that I do believe is related to water being there as well. And it has to do with a chamber that is related to calling down comets, a Stargate. Even in Abydos is another coordinate. It's related to that. And it's probably used for multiple of things, not just communications with comets, but communications with all celestial objects, communications with, the stars. And it keeps track of the travel of celestial bodies through the zodiac. And Gobekli Tempe is another place that we're going to be getting deeper into. But tonight on the Patreon, you got to be there. 9:00, we'll be there. But we're going to be doing these chats way more often. So I appreciate everybody coming by. This is Abu Ghurab that we see right here. Yeah. Thanks, Ria. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Yeah, I actually have to ship out a couple of things today. I got something coming for you too, Cindy. I got some extra stuff I'm gonna be sending you as well. Very important info actually tonight, because this is the time where we need to actually be finding our spiritual selves and connecting to our source. Instead, everybody is so concerned. They're making it so hard in life where everybody is just so concerned with just getting by and being able to get what they need to survive. And everybody's most of people is scrambling where they don't have time to even think about anything else. I've been so accustomed to be able to, that's why I had to change even what I do for a living. It just wasn't working. Right. I couldn't even process working a mindless job while all this is going on in my whole system, in my whole body and everything. All right. Oh, it's your birthday today. Oh, happy birthday, Cindy. So much. I would like to say, but I know you're going through a hard time. Everybody, shout out to Cindy. Her and her family are going through some rough times right now. She needs your prayers during these times and your support. And her husband Robert was a very long time listener of my radio show and supporter of my work. And he's going to be missed dearly, man. I saw his name pop up on my website, and I was like, oh man. It made me feel good though seeing it. But I do recommend these rings, everybody. For these ones, the bigger ones, I mean, they could fit around all food, water, weed, wine, whatever you want to put inside to charge it. They also pull out pain. You know, you could put it around even if you have a bellyache, right? You have a bellyache, you could put it right in your waistband. And you can even use the coils in the center of it to pull out some of the pain as well. You could put it anywhere, these ones. You know, you'll feel the energy. You could feel the energy in it. And I have all size harmonizers like we were showing last night, even the large, big harmonizers. So check that out, the Mystical Spiral store. And if somebody gets the big harmonizer, of course, I will include some sort of crystal something so you could put on top. You can use that to put on top because these are great. I don't have crystal balls right now to sell, but I have like one of my own crystal balls. Those are the best to put on crystal spheres, but you can also put all sorts of crystals on top of these, you know, all sorts of things like that as well. You know, you could put all sorts of stuff on there, you know, even clusters, like even like a big cluster. But I even have hold on, I could show you. Big kyanite cluster. This one fits. Some of them will stay right on there. Yeah, this one fits perfectly. But the balls, it's made for a sphere. The sphere, that's okay. It's my book. The sphere will fit right on here perfectly. If you see like, if you have a crystal ball or something like that, that's perfectly made for it, where it won't come off, you know. Yeah, this is a really amazing crystal ball right here. But the smaller ones, it's the same thing. If you have a smaller one, so these are smaller harmonizers right here. Now, the AccuVac coil pops right in the middle, and then you could put your little crystal ball right on top. It fits perfectly. Radionics is all right. I do have radionics. I do have some radionics board, but it's good for certain intentions, but it becomes witchcraft, right? Radionics becomes witchcraft because most of it is people are trying to throw out intentions to get money, throw out intentions to get this, throw out intentions to get that, and it becomes another form of witchcraft. It's, you know, so you got to be really careful about radionics. It is good for broadcasting healing vibes. It could be good for but with anything, it's not the structure itself that becomes evil. It's what it's used for, right? And I think even with crystal skulls, just because they're shaped like a skull, people have this doom related to it because it makes them think about their own mortality and all of this going on, right? And it's not always about you know, people, the fear of death. I think it also makes them, they see a skull and it makes them think of their own mortality and death. All right, so it's really it's a shame that people think like that. Yeah, but it becomes like witchcraft, you know, when you start to use radionics, you know. And what's the best crystal for health healing, such as infections and cancers? Well, I would think the combination of copper and crystals would be good for that. Rose quartz is also good for healing. You can also use shungite. That is good for, but to pull out infections and cancers, yeah, I mean, I would use. It depends on what blood type you have, I think, as well. I think each person has a different feel for certain things as well. But if you've never worked with crystals before, even an amethyst is good to start with, right? But if it's earthbound problems, I would also use a smoky quartz, right? If you're so that is it could be a combination of things. I also um like if certain herbs to burn as well and to use as well, like rue or vervain, wormwood. These will help with healing as well. Um, uh, but I would, especially if you're uh, uh, infections and cancers, I would definitely recommend probiotics and change your gut as well. Crystals and copper. Well, copper is way better than the crystals, in fact. And there's like real technology behind it. The crystals will help boost it with the copper, but in my opinion, you should actually be transforming your gut as well and using copper for sure. But yeah, I would be very careful with radionics in itself, you know. But the certain crystals, certain ways of making copper and certain copper items, they're good for harmonizing the very cells in the body, even regenerating them, right? And there's a harmony to who we are. There's a Taurus system to who we are. And I've actually seen in some of my viewings these what I would call Sekhem temples in ancient Egypt, right? They're healing chambers. And I saw these golden and purple rods coming down in blue impulses, and they're basically related to water chambers as well, and they harmonize the very cells in the body. It's about sound and vibrational and harmony. And there's these rods that come down and a water type substance, and it doesn't even seem like it's even getting the person wet at all, right? And I think this is what I experienced in 1987 when they had to operate on me to save my life. I really think that's what my vision was about, and man, there's a lot of these temples that are even called the temple of millions of years, right? And I do believe this is all about adding certain bacterias to the body and certain things like that to transform who we are. Yeah, I just would be very Armani Jones. Thank you, Daydreamer. So, yeah, so Armani, it depends. I mean, not the word witchcraft in itself has become demonized, right? So I don't even like how that word is used anymore. But in reality, anyone who prayers or says a prayer is practicing witchcraft, technically. I mean, especially if you have the same way of praying all the time, it's almost like a ritual, right? It's a form of witchcraft. I mean, if you go to church, you're participating in witchcraft. I mean, technically, it's the ultimate oldest of rituals. If you go to church, if you go to Christian and Catholic church, I mean, you got a priest that's in his specific garb, right? He's burning incense. He's reading sacred scriptures. There's ritual chants going on with them saying hallelujah and Amen Ra afterwards, or Amen afterwards, which is basically the same as Om Rama, Amen Ra, Om Rama, same thing, right? Vedic and Egyptian, right in that, right? Om Rama is the same as Amen Ra. It's the same thing. And so they're chanting, right? They're responding their ritual chants, right? And then he's ringing the sacred bells, right? He's preaching, and then afterwards they all line up and they drink the blood and eat the body of their god. Now, if that's not witchcraft, I don't know what is, right? So that's in itself, and yeah, radionics is a good tool if it's used. I hate to use the word light, but if it's used for the light, right? If you're using it to get more money, if you're using it to get women, if you're using it to get men, if you're using it to get whatever, right? It becomes dark magic. It becomes black witchcraft, if you want to call it, right? So it's a fine line that you turn. That's why I think a lot of people want to say it's all pretty it's all pretty evil. But in reality, it's all pagan, like Joe says, if it, if you think about the root of Catholicism, right? But praying, if you want to say praying is pagan, I mean, being spiritual, it doesn't mean pagan is another word that has been demonized, right? And spirit evocation is very dangerous, so I really wouldn't be using it to amplify that. Like the worst, like, yeah, you can use copper, you can use crystals, you can use radionics, you can use orgone power, pyramids and things like that. Yeah, and you could put them on a Ouija board or something like that, and it'll boost the experience. But I don't recommend anyone doing that. In fact, I will not. Don't buy from my website if you're going to do that with any of my items. I would not recommend it. And I don't want that to be done. But if you're going to use it to boost your prayers, then that's fine, right? But if you're using it if you're doing it to summon spirits, that's very dangerous, man. I don't recommend it. Because most likely there are disembodied Rephaim spirits that you're messing with. And a lot of times they're deceivers, and they will give you certain information that is true, but there will be seeds of destruction that's planted in there that'll cling to you, and it will become a virus. And it's a data virus. Once data gets in and it's a virus, it affects the whole system. Right. So I wouldn't recommend summoning spirits at all in that way. I mean, what spirits are you trying to evocate? Because spirits move on, right? Our lost loved ones, they move on. Now, certain fragments, I feel, of their being, of this incarnation, certain unsettled pain and resentments and things like that. I think fragments of that person's consciousness do get stuck, embedded within the memory of this planet, and can get experienced. But the soul ultimately moves on, I feel. And I think it does go through a cosmic journey ultimately. Armani, I'm just saying, just be careful. You know, I understand what you're saying. Just be careful. So I got to go actually because my brother-in-law is about to meet me over here to try to help me jump my car. I will be live 9 p.m. tonight. I really hope you guys will be there. I'm excited for my Patreon because we're starting a whole new chapter on there. And I got a new computer. Thank God. Shout out to Larry out there who helped me make that possible. A brand new laptop because I was still using Windows 7 and my computer was like 10 years old or more. So now I have a laptop that I can actually use. And much loves out there, everybody, because it's hard times. It's really hard times. We'll be here though. And guys, also subscribe to my Combat Sports TV International channel. It's about spiritual warfare and actually talking to martial artists that are coaches and experts and have fought in the biggest promotions in the world, like UFC and Pride and Bellator and all of them. I've been talking to a lot of those gentlemen, and I've already posted a couple of videos on there. Some of them I have on here as well, but I'll be doing more. But please subscribe and support that channel as well. And you can support me right here at Exploring the Ka, and Spiral out.